Hello, Miss Hicks's class. This is the recording for Wednesday, and we're starting on Chapter 18, Leslie. Leslie had 5 fingers on each hand and 5 toes on each foot. For each hand, she had an arm, and for each foot, she had a leg. She was a very lucky girl, and she had 2 lovely, long, brown pigtails that reached all the way down to her waist. When Miss Jules asked a question, Leslie could raise one of her hands. When Leslie was adding, she could count on her fingers. When Paul pulled one of her pigtails, she could kick him with one foot while standing on the other. But Leslie had a problem. She didn't know what to do with her toes. She had 10 adorable little toes and nothing to do with them. As far as she could tell, they served no useful purpose. "Suck on your toes, that's what I do," said Sherry. But Leslie's foot wouldn't reach to her mouth. "Well, that's all toes are good for," said Sherry. She put her foot in her mouth and went to sleep. No, thought Leslie, they must be good for something. They just have to be. During recess, she asked Dana, "Dana, what do you do with your toes?" "I scratch the back of my leg," said Dana. "First I scratch my left leg with my right foot, and then I scratch my right leg with my left foot." "But my legs don't itch," said Leslie. "That's good," said Dana. "In that case, you can scratch my legs. With your help, I can scratch both legs at the same time." "No, never mind," said Leslie. She walked up behind Louis, the yard teacher, and hopped on his shoulders. "Louis," said Leslie, "I don't know what to do with my toes." Louis tugged her foot. "Yes, that is a serious problem. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take them off your hands for you, or rather your feet. Just cut them off and give them to me." "What?" asked Leslie. "You don't want them, so I'll take them," said Louis. "You won't have to worry about them ever again." "No," said Leslie. "I'll give them to Miss Mush," said Louis. "She can make little hot dogs out of them." Miss Mush was the lunch teacher. "No, I'm not going to give my toes away," said Leslie. "All right," said Louis. "I'll give you a nickel apiece for them." "No, you can't have them," said Leslie. "Why not?" asked Louis. "They're no good to you anyways. Think of all that you can buy for 50 cents. The bell rang. "I'll think it over," said Leslie, and she ran back to class. "Miss Jules," said Leslie, "I don't see any reason for keeping my toes." "Oh, Leslie, I'm sure there are lots of good reasons." "Well, I can't think of any. My legs don't itch, and I can't reach my foot in my mouth. Louis offered me a nickel apiece for them, and it seemed to me like a good idea. But I wanted to check with you first." "I think Louis was pulling your legs," said Miss Jules. "No," said Leslie. "He was pulling my toes." "What would he want with your toes?" asked Miss Jules. "I don't know," said Leslie, "but if he's willing to give me 5 cents apiece for them, then I'm going to take him up on it. That's 50 cents. "Not so fast," said Louis. "Let me look at them first." Leslie took off her shoes. "Oh, yes," said Louis. "The big ones are good, and the little ones next to them. But the most I'll give you for the rest of your toes is 3 cents apiece." "3 cents? You told me 5 at recess." "I'll give you 5 cents for the big ones, but just look at that scrawny little runt of a toe at the end. You're lucky to be getting even 3 cents for that. I think you're getting a darn good deal." "I happen to like that toe," said Leslie. "Fine then," said Louis. "Keep it. I'll just take the 2 big toes and we'll call it square." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a dime. "Nothing doing," said Leslie. "These toes are sold as is, as a set. It's either all 10 for 50 cents or no deal. What am I going to do with just 8 toes?" "Then forget it," said Louis. "I'm not going to give you a nickel for those scrawny little end toes." "Fine," said Leslie. "No deal. My toes will still be here if you change your mind. She turned and walked towards the hopscotch area. "Wait a second," Louis called. "I'll give you $1 for each of your pigtails." Leslie turned around and looked at him with fiery eyes. "Cut my hair? Are you crazy?" Chapter 19. Miss Savares. There is no Miss Savares. There is no 19th story. Sorry. Chapter 20. Kathy. Kathy doesn't like you. She doesn't know you, but she still doesn't like you. She thinks you're stupid. In fact, she thinks you're the stupidest person she doesn't know. What do you think of that? She also thinks you're ugly. As a matter of fact, she thinks you're one of the ugliest persons she doesn't know. And she doesn't know a lot of people. She doesn't like the people she knows either. She hates everyone in Miss Jewel's class. She did like one member of the class. She liked Sammy. She thought he was funny. But Sammy was a dead rat. But Kathy had good reason for not liking any of the children she knows. She doesn't like DJ because he smiles too much. She doesn't like John because he can't stand on his head. She once had a cat named Skunks. She liked Skunks, but she was afraid Skunks would run away. "You have nothing to worry about, Kathy," said Miss Jules. "Skunks won't run away. Just be nice to him and feed him and pet him, and he won't run away. He may go out and play, but he'll always come back." "No, you're wrong, Miss Jules," said Kathy. "What do you know? He'll run away." So Kathy kept Skunk locked up in her closet at home. She never let him out, and sometimes even forgot to feed him. One day, while Kathy was looking for her other shoe, Skunks ran out of the closet and never came back. "You said he would come back, Miss Jules," said Kathy. "He never came back. You were wrong and I was right." That was why Kathy didn't like Miss Jules. "The next time I get a cat, I'll kill him. Then he'll never run away," said Kathy. Then there was the time that Damien tried to teach Kathy how to play catch. Damien said, "When I throw you the ball, try to catch it." "I can't catch it," said Kathy. "I'll just get hurt." "You won't get hurt," said Damien. "Just watch the ball." He tossed it to her. But Kathy knew she'd get hurt, so she closed her eyes, and the ball hit her on the cheek, and it hurt. Kathy began to cry. "You were wrong," she sobbed. "I was right." That's why Kathy didn't like Damien. Allison believes that if you're nice to someone, then they'll be nice to you. So one day she brought Kathy a cookie. "I don't want your ugly cookie," said Kathy. "It probably tastes terrible." Allison said, "No, it's very good. I made it myself." Kathy said, "If you made it, then it must stink. You can't cook. You're too stupid." She just put the cookie in the desk along with her pencils, crayons, and books. 3 weeks later, Kathy was hungry. "All right, Allison," she said, "I'll try your stupid cookie." She took it out of her desk. It was covered with dust. She bit it. It was hard and tasted terrible. "See," said Kathy, "I was right." That's why Kathy doesn't like Allison. Yes, Kathy had a very good reason for not liking anybody she knew. But she also has a good reason for not liking you. And she doesn't even know you. Her reason is this. She knows that if you ever met her, you wouldn't like her. You don't like Kathy, do you? See, she was right. It's funny how a person can be right all the time and still be wrong. Chapter 21. Ron. Ron had curly hair and little feet. "I want to play kickball," he said. "You can't play," said Terrence. "Get out of here," said Dee Dee. "Scram," said Jason. "But I want to play kickball," said Ron. "Well, you're not playing," said Terrence. "Beat it." Ron stopped across the playground to the hopscotch area. Jenny was playing hopscotch with Louis. Jenny was on 9. Louis was still on 4, but it was his turn. I want to play kickball, Ron said. So go play kickball, said Louis. Terrence won't let me play. Louis walked with Ron to the kickball field. Hey, what about our hopscotch game? Jenny said. Hey, what about our hopscotch? Jenny asked. You won, said Louis. I just beat Louis in hopscotch, Jenny announced. Hey, Louis, Damien shouted. Do you want to play kickball? All right, said Louis. Ron and I will both play. No, said Terrence. Ron isn't playing. Anyone who wants to play can play, said Louis. No, he can't, said Terrence. It's my ball. It isn't your ball. You gave the ball to me, said Terrence. I gave it to you to share, said Louis. If you can't share, you can't have it. Oh, all right, said Terrence, but I get to pitch. Ron and I will stand everyone, Louis announced. All right, said Jason. We'll kill 'em. We'll murder 'em. We'll smash 'em. We'll see, said Louis. Ron pitched, and Louis played the other 8 positions. 20 minutes later, they finally got 3 outs. The score was 21-0. Ron was up first. Infield in, shouted Damien. Everybody stood within 10 feet of home plate. All right, Ron, Louis said. Kick it over their heads. Ron kicked the ball, only 3.5 feet. Todd picked it up and threw him out. Louis was up. Everybody ran back to the edge of the outfield. Still, Louis kicked the ball over their heads for a home run. Everybody ran all the way back in for Ron. He kicked the ball 2 feet. Dee Dee tagged him out. Louis kicked another home run. Ron then kicked the ball a foot and tripped over it on his way to first base. 3 outs. Ron and Louis held the other team to only 5 runs the next inning. That was because the bell rang. Lunch was finally over. Louis and Ron lost 26-2. Ron had had a wonderful time. The next day, Ron said, I want to play kickball. You can't play, said Terrence. Get out of here, said Jason. Scram, said Dee Dee. I want to play kickball, Ron told Louis. Louis walked with him to the kickball field. Ron and I will stand all of you. Everybody liked the teams. Ron pitched while Louis played the other 8 positions. They lost 57-2. After the game, Louis took Ron aside. Listen, Ron, why do you always want to play kickball? You can't kick, you can't field, you can't even run to first base. You just get smashed every game. Hey, now wait a minute, said Ron. Don't go blaming it all on me. You're half the team too, you know. And with that, he punched Louis in the stomach. And he punched a lot harder than he kicked. Chapter 22. The 3 Erics. In Miss Jewell's class, there were 3 children named Eric. Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and Eric Ovens. They were known throughout the school for being fat. Eric Fry sat at the end of the room. Eric Bacon sat in the middle of the room. And Eric Ovens sat at the other end of the room. There was a joke around Wayside School that if all 3 Erics were ever at the same end of the room at the same time, the whole school would tip over. Eric Bacon hated jokes like that. That's not surprising. After all, he wasn't even fat. In fact, he was the skinniest kid in Miss Jewell's class. But everybody seemed to notice. The other 2 Erics were fat, and so everyone just thought that all the Erics were fat. But I'm not fat, Eric Bacon insists. What's your name? Asked Jason. Eric. Then you're fat, Jason concluded. And pretty soon, skinny little Eric Bacon, the skinniest kid in Miss Jewell's class, had the nickname Fatso. Eric Fry really was fat. He was also the best athlete in Miss Jewell's class. His body was solid muscle. However, nobody ever noticed. The other 2 Erics weren't very good at sports. Eric Ovens was clumsy. Eric Fatso Bacon was a good athlete for his size, but because he was so skinny, He didn't have much power. So naturally, everybody just assumed that Eric Fry was also clumsy and weak. After all, his name was Eric. Whenever the other kids chose up teams, Eric Fry was the last one picked. They never noticed his home runs or his fabulous catches. Like all great athletes, he made the impossible look easy. Of course, the other kids did notice the one time that he dropped the ball. Eric Fry was playing right field. Terrence belted a deep fly to left. Eric Fry raced all the way across the field after the ball and at the last second dived for it. He caught it in midair on his fingertips, but as he hit the ground, the ball squirted loose. "Well, what do you expect from Butterfingers?" said Stephen. And since that time, Eric Fry had had the nickname Butterfingers. Eric Evans was the nicest person in Miss Jewell's class. He treated everyone equally and always had a kind word to say. But because his name was Eric, everybody thought he was mean. Fatso was mean because everybody called him Fatso. Butterfingers was mean because he also had to play right field. So naturally, everybody just assumed that Eric Evans was also mean. They called him Crabapple. "Good morning, Allison," Eric Evans said. "How are you?" "Lay off, Crabapple, will ya?" answered Allison. "If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all." All three of the Erics had nicknames. It was better that way. Otherwise, when somebody said, "Hey, Eric," no one knew which one they were talking to. One time, all the Erics would answer. The next time, none of them would answer. But when somebody said, "Hey, Crabapple," then Eric Evans knew they were talking to him. And if somebody said, "Hey, Butterfingers," Eric Fry knew they meant him. And when someone said, "Hey, Fatso," Eric Bacon knew that he was being called. Chapter 23, Allison. Allison had pretty blonde hair and always wore a sky blue windbreaker. Her windbreaker was the same color as her eyes. She was best friends with Rondi. Rondi had blonde hair too, but she was missing her two front teeth. Allison had all of her teeth. Allison used to say that she knocked Rondi's teeth out. Allison was very pretty, so all the boys in Miss Jewell's class teased her, especially Jason. But Allison said, "Leave me alone or I'll knock your teeth out like I did Rondi's." The boys didn't bother her after that. One day, Allison brought a tangerine for lunch. She took the peel off in one piece. Miss Mush, the lunch teacher, walked up to her. "Allison, may I have your tangerine?" she asked. Miss Mush was always giving food to children, so Allison was happy to give her tangerine to her. Miss Mush shoved it in her mouth and swallowed it in less than 4 seconds. Allison left the lunchroom and walked down to the library. The lunchroom was on the 15th story. The library was on the 7th. Allison already had her book. She just went to the library because it was nice and quiet there. The librarian walked up to Allison. "What are you reading?" she asked. Allison told her the name of the book. "That sounds like a good book," said the librarian. "I never read that one. May I borrow it?" The librarian always lent books to children. Allison was glad to be able to return the favor. She gave the librarian the book, then walked down the stairs, outside to the playground. All of Allison's friends were playing freeze tag. Allison didn't feel like playing freeze tag. She reached into the pocket of her sky blue windbreaker and took out a tennis ball. She bounced it a couple times on the ground. Louis came up to her. "Hey, Allison," she said, "may I play with your tennis ball?" Louis was always giving balls to the children. Allison happily gave her ball to Louis. Louis threw the ball all the way to the other end of the playground. Then he went chasing after it. Allison didn't feel like doing anything. Jason ran up and tagged her. "You're frozen," he said. "Get out of here before I knock your teeth out," said Allison. Jason shrugged his shoulders and left. Allison went back inside and up the 30 flights of stairs to Miss Jewell's room. Lunch period wasn't over, but Allison didn't feel like doing anything else. She had given her food to the lunch teacher, her book to the librarian, and her ball to the art teacher. She went inside her classroom. Miss Jules was there. "Oh, Allison, I'm glad you're here. I'm having trouble with a math problem. Maybe you can help." "Sure," said Allison. Miss Jules always helped children with their problems. Allison was happy to help. "How do you spell chair?" asked Miss Jules. "C-H-A-I-R," said Allison. "Yes, that's right. I knew it wasn't C-H-A-R-E, but I couldn't remember what it was." "That's not a math problem," said Allison. "That's spelling." "Yes, you're right again," said Miss Jules. "I always get the two mixed up." The bell rang. Lunch period was over. Allison could hear the other students running up the stairs. "Allison," said Miss Jules, "you learned a very important secret today, and I don't want you to tell any of the other children, not even Rondi." "What was that?" asked Allison. She didn't even know she had learned a secret. She loves secrets. "You learned that children are really smarter than their teachers," said Miss Jules. "Oh, that's no secret," said Allison. "Everybody knows that." Okay, I will see you guys again tomorrow.